What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react and continue learning about the biggest differences between living in Canada versus living in America. Part 2. If you haven't seen Part 1, feel free to go check that out or stay right here. That's fine too. All you gotta know is that we're listening to this Canadian, and he has been living most of his life in Canada and some of his adult life in America. And he's going through some of the observations and comparisons he's made having lived in both countries. And I think some of the comparisons he's made are actually very fascinating. The actual categories he's choosing to compare, such as in part 1, he was talking about things to do. Oh, there's some stuff to do here in America. There's some cool stuff to do in Canada as well. And the culture, Canadian culture and American culture. The climate, it's cold. Can be cold in Canada. Can be slightly less cold in America. This is, this is the real condensed version, mind you. And cuisine, the food. He was actually very, very complimentary about most of his analysis of his time spent in America, actually very positive about his interpretation of his time in America, except for the food. Not such a big fan of the American food, and between you and me, I don't blame him, but especially with some of the amazing stuff I've seen available in Canada, some of the authentic, diverse food options. But that aside, I'm very excited today to continue this video and see about some of the other comparisons that he's made between living in America versus living in Canada, and what the verdict is, what his verdict is on all that. So I think that's just fascinating hearing about this from a Canadian's point of view. I've heard some Americans' point of view living in both countries, but not so many Canadians who have come to America. So this is a real sort of treat for me, you might say. So, with that being said, let's take a look.
All right, so the next thing I'm gonna talk about is opportunity. And this is where I feel America is pretty significantly different from Canada. There is just a lot more opportunity for you to grow in your career or to launch your career or to just find a good job and make good money in the United States.
The land of opportunity, as we like to call ourselves. The land of opportunity. And I think, even to this day, that holds pretty true, I have to say, just from a, objective standpoint. Not even trying to make it a Canada versus America thing. America's gigantic. Our economy is enormous. It's very influential on the world stage. And America, therefore, has a lot of job opportunities and a lot of money going in and out of stuff if you can get a good job. And it's also very, very, very conducive and supportive of starting businesses and giving people opportunities to create small businesses and really helping those flourish and have opportunity to do that. That is one thing I really admire about living in America, is that you really do have a really good open playing field to trying to start your own thing. It's very cool. And I'm sure all of that is also remains true for Canada to some extent, but America's just flat out bigger. There's just more stuff, more money, more economy, more businesses, and therefore, I think his point, more opportunity, quote unquote. So I guess I kind of have to agree.
One of the main reasons is because America is just simply a much bigger country than Canada. Yeah. America's population is 10 times that of Canada. And so there are just more jobs and more industries to work in. Exactly. Literally almost every single industry on the face of the earth is present in America. But there are also more personal freedoms in America. It's a more business-friendly country, and it's a more economically free country than Canada. So therefore, it's...
That's what I was trying to say. It's very business-friendly. Like, you can call us super overly capitalistic evil businesses trying to take over, but hey, maybe it can be your evil business that takes over if you come to America. Okay, I'm gonna stop right there. But it can be. Okay, let's continue.
It's just easier to start a business or to do something new in America. Literally, in the United States, the sky's the limit. There's no limit on what you can do. If you can dream it in your head, chances are you can probably do it in America. And don't get me wrong, Canada's a great country, and there are plenty of opportunities for you to do well in your career and to grow personally and professionally. But I have to say that in America, there is no limit on your opportunity. The sky's the limit.
Yeah, that's important to say. It's like, yeah, there's more chances, more opportunities in America just because it's bigger, but that doesn't mean there's no opportunity in Canada. And like, there's so many other factors about why you might want to live in Canada instead. And there are opportunities available and many other perks and bonuses that for many people it's probably just more worth it, in their opinion, to take the opportunities available in Canada over America, depending on how you personally judge, the value of where you live and what's important to you.
Before I jump into my sixth point, I just want to let you know that whether you've seen my content before or if this is the first time you're viewing one of my videos, go ahead and subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell.
I respect it. You know what? I respect it. This video is made by Lifestyle Chris Vincelli, and I'm going to give it a like. Since he went out of his way to say that, I gotta respect the YouTube promotion, the YouTube hustle.
So you can be notified every single time I come out with other great and similar content. And if you're liking the video so far, go ahead and smash.
Okay, I gave it a like already. I'm skipping you.
A lot.
Skip. Okay. Oh, follow his Instagram. This just keeps going. Okay.
Developed. But the American economy is the biggest economy in the world. It is much larger than that of Canada's.
Okay, what are we on right now? The economy. Okay. Oh, if we're talking about economy, this is almost too similar to opportunity, because the opportunities in America are kind of directly based on the fact that we have a big economy. But let's hear what he has to say.
And that's just because, like I said earlier, there are more people here in the United States. There's more opportunity, there are more jobs, there are more industries. America is the world's #1 economy, but Canada's economy is also very large and very impressive as well. Just to give you a couple of examples here, the American GDP per capita is one of the highest in the world. I think there are just a few other countries above the United States in terms of GDP per capita, and those countries tend to be, smaller countries of just a few million people. Canada has a very high GDP per capita as well, but it does fall short of America's.
GDP. We're going to look it up, just so we have a good definition of that. GDP, not Google developer expert. GDP finance. Please give us the definition. Gross GDP meaning. Let's do GDP meaning. Not Google does exist. What is with this? GDP America? Come on. We're trying to talk finance here. Not general education development. What on earth is going on here? Can't get the definition of GDP. GDP per capita? Per capita? There we go. Measures the economic output of a nation per person. Okay, that's why countries that are bigger than America can have a better GDP, because it's per person, not just based on how many people. Seeks to determine the prosperity of a nation by economic growth per person. Per capita income measures the amount of money earned per person. Okay, so basically America, each individual in America earns or has more money on average than a Canadian, if I'm interpreting this correctly.
And like I said earlier, pretty much every single industry on the face of the earth is present in the United States. You can think of tech, you can think of the oil and gas industry, mining, you can think of sports and entertainment, travel and hospitality, financial services, banking. All of these industries are very much present in the United States.
Yeah, and also like the one that even pops out a lot to me is like the entertainment industry. Like there are some industries that are just like, you want to be in America because that's where stuff is happening. That's where the most influential people in that industry might be located. on Wall Street or something if you're trying to get into finance, or Hollywood if you're trying to get into entertainment. Like America does have a lot of like those hubs that are seen as like global hubs for certain industries. That's true.
Whereas in Canada, the number of industries that are present in the Canadian landscape are a little bit more limited. When you think of major industries in Canada, you do think of the oil and gas industry, mining, financial services, manufacturing as well. But
Yeah, a lot of Americans don't actually know that about Canada, how well Canada does in mining and oil production. Like a lot of Americans do not associate that with Canada. It's like a little known fact. They think Canada is like just the leader in maple syrup production, which that's not even a joke. I'm pretty sure Canada is.
But I think that's pretty much it. Long story short, America's economy is much larger, much more productive, and there are more industries and jobs present in the United States as well. Another
Like I said, he's choosing to be very, very complimentary of America in this little comparison. And I think that's actually a byproduct of the fact that I'm finally watching a video of a Canadian's point of view living in America. He's pointing out a lot of things he likes about America. And a lot of other videos I've watched are Americans going to Canada and pointing out all the incredible stuff there. So flipping the script on this is like having this secondary effect I didn't anticipate of him being very complimentary of America. I don't mind it. I'm okay with it.
Another point I can bring up is wealth. And if we take a look at the average wage in the United States, we can see that wages are actually very high. Americans are making a lot of money. And there's only just a couple other.
Yeah, we are. No. Apparently not as much as Switzerland, Iceland, and Luxembourg. See, I think this is actually deceiving. I'm just joking, honestly, because the average American is making a lot of money, but that's an average. Like, the reality is, America has like a lot of billionaires and multimillionaires who control, like, there's graphs on this where it's like they control so much of the money, and then you average that with the people at the bottom who are living paycheck to paycheck, starving, not knowing where their next meal is coming from, maybe living on the street or earning minimum wage. When you average that, yeah, you end up with this like impressive number of the average American. But sadly, I think the truth is there's a lot of middle class Americans who get by fine in comfort, but there's a shocking amount of people who are really struggling in America. You know, first world country. We pride ourselves on being this global leader in this and that. There's a lot of people who are really struggling in America financially, who don't have a home, or it's wild that exists so much in America. And on the flip side, we have a lot of super rich people. So I don't know. I feel like I got to point that out if we're just singing the praises of how much Americans are making.
Countries ahead of the United States in that area. Canada is not that far behind, but still pretty significantly lower than that of America's. All right, there are just a few more points I want to bring up, but the next point I'm going to talk about is safety. And in this area, I do feel that Canada is a safer country. It's a safer country to visit. It's a safer country to live in. In general,
Yeah. Okay. This is a good one. I feel like the last couple, wealth, economy, opportunity, that's all been just literally the same category in a way. It's so closely related. Safety. That depends on where you live in America. But believe me, there are places in America, particularly big American cities, where crime is so rampant that it's scary, and people just know basically not to go to certain places in America. That's common that people are like, oh, you don't go there, or you're going to run into some trouble, or you're going to get something stolen, or don't go out alone. And that is unfortunately commonplace in a lot of American cities. And I think just in general, American culture, Americans don't really trust each other. We really don't. You don't leave your stuff unlocked. You don't leave your stuff out, your purse, your wallet, or phone. You don't, you lock your bike up if you're leaving it somewhere. There's just an overall lack of trust, really, in the air in general. People are polite, people are friendly, but you still wouldn't trust them, like, to leave your wallet out or something. It's very bizarre, and I'm not saying all Americans are untrustworthy, but most Americans don't trust each other. So even if that, I wouldn't be surprised if that is like an intangible kind of feeling that is not so prevalent in Canada, but it exists in America. Or maybe it does. I can't know for sure. I guess I'm curious what he has to say about it.
I don't feel that there are many bad neighborhoods in major Canadian cities. The crime rate in Canada is actually pretty low. And when living in Canada or when visiting Canada, you do get the sense that Canada is a safer, more peaceful country.
Yeah, you can just feel it. And I think the statistics, the data literally backs this up. Like, Canada is a very safe, wonderful place to live. America can be, like in many places, don't get me wrong, but there's many places where it's not so good.
The United States, on the other hand, is also a very safe country to live in, but I do get the sense that there are more bad neighborhoods in major American cities. There are more dangerous areas that you do need to be careful of, especially during certain times of the day or certain times of night. America's crime rate is a bit higher than that of Canada's. And because of the fact that America is a lot more present around the world, there are more negative things that could happen to America from foreign influences. Another thing I'm going to talk about is connectivity. And the
Connectivity? Connectivity? Like internet connectivity? Man, I mean, Americans love their internet. Is there better internet in Canada? What connectivity? What does this mean?
United States is just a very well-connected country. There's an enormous network of highways and roads that link pretty much all major cities in the United States. So getting around is very easy.
Connectivity of roads, of cities and towns, and connecting the nation. As long as you own a car, you're good to go. Turn on your phone, use a little Google Maps or Apple Maps, whatever you like. And there's going to be a highway to take you anywhere you want to go in America. That's probably one of the best things about America is when they built all the highways a while back.
Going from one part of the country to the next is a very easy thing to do. You can pretty much hop onto any highway and you'll be able to drive to whatever city or town or village you want to go to. On top of that, the airline industry in the United States is huge. Pretty much.
Is he saying that that's not true in Canada? Like, there's not major highways or freeways, All of the Canadian towns and cities and provinces aren't like can't you just drive anywhere? Like, I have trouble believing that doesn't exist in some shape or form in Canada.
All cities in the United States have an airport, so flying from one part of the country to the next, or even just flying regionally, is really, really easy. Airfare in the United States is pretty cheap, so it makes traveling pretty easy. And honestly, Canada is just not as well connected as the United States.
Really?
If you want to travel regionally within Canada, if you want to travel, for example, between Montreal and Toronto, both located in Eastern Canada, well, then, that's pretty easily done. There are dozens and dozens of flights per day between both of those cities, and there is a major highway linking them. But if you want to travel across the country, if you want to drive from, let's say, Toronto in Eastern Canada all the way to Vancouver in Western Canada, that's not very easily done.
Really?
There is essentially only one highway linking Eastern Canada to Western Canada, and if that highway were to be
what was his example?
In Western Canada, that Toronto in Eastern Canada all the way to Vancouver in
Toronto to Vancouver. Let's do it. Let's plug it in. Toronto to Vancouver. Let's see what the maps pulls up. I'm curious now. Oh, it's trying to pull up flights. All right, here's the Google Maps. Oh, that's funny. It's going through America when I plug it in. Oh, let me try to pull up this map. Okay, there we go. Toronto to it's going. It chose the path through the United States. 41 hours. Goodness gracious. Okay, well, maybe that wasn't such a good example. I feel like it's because I'm located in America. It's like forcing me to create a route through America. That's funny. Maybe it proves the point. I don't know. Let's keep going.
In Western Canada, that's not very easily done. There is essentially only one highway linking Eastern Canada to Western Canada, and if that highway were to be out of commission for whatever reason, Canada would effectively be split in two. Now, with that being said, Canada does have a very large airline industry as well. There are several big airlines in Canada, and Canadians do fly a lot. They fly domestically and internationally. So flying.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of different, I think, culturally. Because when you're in America, it really is a big decision. Are you gonna, if you're going to another state that's a couple hours away, are you gonna fly or are you just gonna drive? Because driving's no problem, it just takes time. You know you're gonna be able to drive wherever. So that's usually a conversation that happens when you're traveling around America, but maybe not so much in Canada. Maybe there's not too much decision making there. It's just like, okay, let's get our flight.
Within Canada is pretty easily done. The one thing I do have to say is that because there are fewer airlines in Canada, I feel that airfare is a lot more expensive and it makes flying somewhat tougher, knowing that you have to pay several hundreds of dollars just to fly domestically. So at the end of the day, I do feel the United States is a more connected country.
That was fascinating. I never knew anything really about that, or that we actually had a really great highway system. Maybe I just took that for granted.
All right, and the last thing, the 10th thing I'm going to talk about is healthcare. And you may or may not know this, but Canada...
Oh, no. This is setting me off already. Oh, oh boy, the healthcare. Well, I already know he's going to say Canada's healthcare system is better, because it is. And this somehow manages to pop up in a lot of videos that I watch. The healthcare in Canada versus America. So let's just see what he has to say about it.
Canada has a universal healthcare system, which means that everyone is covered by public health insurance. The mistake people make, however, is by calling it free healthcare. And it's absolutely not free. It's universal. Right. Everyone is covered, but it's not free.
Yeah, I think, he's right. A lot of Americans do kind of refer to it like that just to make it sound even better. When Americans are trying to point out how bad the American healthcare system is, they're like, well, Canada is universal. It's free healthcare. Everything's free. And it's like, not necessarily, because Canadians are paying taxes that go towards that stuff.
You just pay for your healthcare through taxes, through taxation. And God knows, taxes in Canada are really, really high. They are sky high. The income tax rates in Canada are astronomically high. That is how you're able to create a universal healthcare system. That's how everyone is.
Well, honestly, taxes can get pretty outrageous in America. And most Americans don't even know what the heck our taxes are even going towards most of the time. Nothing very apparent. I'm sure it's something, but nothing terribly impressive a lot of the time. Just knowing that my taxes were going towards healthcare, my healthcare, I would actually be happier paying the government taxes, like just knowing that. Like, I don't know if Canadians feel the same way because that's your normal, but Americans would be ecstatic, I feel. Like, just knowing, okay, I know some of my taxes are going towards that. Thank goodness. Instead, it's like we're not quite sure what's going on.
Is able to be covered through public health care. They just tax you through the roof. So yes, it is universal in Canada, but it is definitely not free. In the United States, on the other hand, healthcare is purchased through private companies, or health insurance could also be offered through your workplace. So for the most part, people are covered for health insurance in the United States. There are...
Yeah, I'm glad he pointed that out. I think that's a misconception. Like, most Americans, thankfully, are covered. Like, you can buy a health insurance plan through the government. You pay every month to have your plan. And a lot of procedures and care is covered. And you can get the same thing through your job, which a lot of people look for in America, a job that's going to provide a healthcare plan as part of sort of an extra thing they don't have to pay for every month. And the real travesty comes in when either you're an American who's in a financial situation where they don't have a health plan, then you're in deep trouble because you're paying outrageous prices for everything at a hospital, or your healthcare plan, like they have agreements and partnerships with certain hospitals, and so sometimes certain things are not covered or paid for depending on your healthcare coverage and what the hospital offers and how they're partnered. So it's the most random things you can imagine that won't be covered. And when it's not covered, you pay the full price. And that's where hospitals in America, because they're like almost like independent businesses, they have racked up the price of everyday procedures and not so common procedures to outrageous, life crippling amounts of money that could ruin your life if you need a life saving procedure and you have no choice but to take it. So that's the kind of sick, twisted part of the whole thing.
People who don't have health insurance in America, however, and if they were to seek any medical care, they would have to pay for that care, for that treatment, out of their own pocket.
Yeah.
So that's the main difference between healthcare in the United States and Canada. In Canada, it's public and it's universal, but it's definitely not free. And in America, you do have to purchase it yourself or select a plan that works best for you from your workplace. But if you don't, you run the risk of paying for care out of your own pocket. What do you all think of the points I brought up in this video? Did I miss anything? Have you ever lived?
And also, your healthcare plan will usually only cover a percentage of your procedures. So it may cover 70 or 80%. But if you're getting a procedure that's $200,000, God forbid, then you're still could owe like $40,000. That's a thing as well, you know. Just the possibility that that stuff can happen is the troubling thing for most people.
In Canada and the United States, what have your experiences been? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments section below. Please drop your comments.
Very cool. I think that's the end. I'm glad that he brought up the healthcare, although it does get me going a little bit. Apologies. But I enjoyed this whole thing. I think the categories he chose to bring up, comparing Canada and America, were fantastic. Very insightful, and I just enjoyed hearing about all this analysis and comparison from a Canadian's point of view. That was interesting. Very complimentary of America. That was refreshing to hear, honestly. And again, this was by Lifestyle Chris Vincelli, I think. Hope I'm saying that right. And I really did like that. That was pretty entertaining and some good points as well. So I enjoyed it. Anyway, if you enjoyed this as well, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to Canada or Canadian culture, stuff in Canada I have never seen before or learned about, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching and see you next time.